Welcome back, Red Spotters. I'm in the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by the usuals. I have Mr. Peter Martinez, Ms. Alexys Moreno, and Mr. David Francisco. We're going to be continuing on our extended segments where we cover certain television shows. And today it is the very anticipated, at least among those of us who are excited to be here, and I think we all are, to talk about The Haunting of Hill House, which is brought to us by a deity called Mike Flanagan. And I'm sure that we'll be sucking his dick all hour long, literally, because that was amazing. Spoiler. But before that, that's going to be all 10 episodes of the Netflix critically acclaimed horror drama, and I do mean critically acclaimed, in anticipation for the follow-up, which will be The Haunting of Bly Manor, which of course we'll also come back and do. I do want to make sure people are aware that, at least for where Peter and I are recording, there have been a series of earthquakes, a swarm as we like to call. And so if you hear noise in the background, or if some stuff falls, or if any of us have to step away for a moment, that will be a reason, and I'm going to entrust that David and Alexis and Peter can continue the conversation if something were to happen. But without further ado...
Are you talking about the shaking?
Yes. It's been a day. So, without further ado, this is Red Spotlight number 271. So, we all have thoughts. I like to really toss it off in these cases to Peter Martinez, because he does a pretty good job, I feel, of giving an overview about what this is about that we're going to talk about. So, Peter, would you care to enlighten us on what The Haunting of Hill House is, and also why we felt so, empowered, or I guess compelled to talk about it?
The Haunting of Hill House. Loosely, and I use the word loosely with the highest degree, based off the novella of the same name, famous novella, is a miniseries on Netflix, written and directed by Mike Flanagan. Now, Alexis Soto here doesn't care much for the director, so I had to really convince him to watch this miniseries. Took a couple of Octobers, but we got there. So I'm very interested to see how he feels about this.
Just to make sure, because I did expect misrepresentations to be told. I am keeping track of the number of untruths. I'll be fact-checking Peter in real time.
No.
So that's number one right there.
Is there more fact-checking going on here than the presidential debate?
Absolutely.
Oh my god. Okay. So it is about a family like no other. Why? Because they grew up at Hill House. They
spent a summer on Hill House.
They did a lot of growing up in that summer. We'll put it that way. It's a family of 5 children. 2 brothers, 3 sisters, and their parents, when they're all young, move into the house for one summer until tragically the mother dies. And they have to escape in the middle of the night. The trauma that has continued within that family follows them throughout the rest of their lives until we meet them at the beginning of the story, in which case they have to meet up once again due to another family member's death within the house. And then that's basically where we pick up the story, and we learn not only what transpired that summer back when they were young, but how that affected them to where they were today. And each sibling basically gets their own episode and their own point of view, and you uncover more and more about what the whole mystery of what is Hill House ultimately is. I watched this when it first came out. Back 2018, was it? 2019?
Yeah, 2018.
2018. October 2018. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. it is very much an old-fashioned ghost story in which the ghosts are there and they're scary, they're creepy, they get under your skin and they terrify you. But most importantly, they are more symbolic of the real ghosts, the real things that afflict us in real life. And this is something you can see in all of Flanagan's work, but most specifically his most recent film, Dr. Sleep, especially. I thought it was wonderfully written, wonderfully acted. There are some genuine twists and turns and scenes that have stuck with me from the day I've seen it.
Literally, like, gives me chills.
Yeah. I think Mike Flanagan is a director I really, really like. And I really like his horror stuff because there's always more to it than just horror.
Yeah.
And with a director with whom work I like a lot, this is something I consider to be his best work. This first season of Hill House. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna kick it to you guys. See what you feel.
No, we agree. We really agree. Yeah, we also saw it when it first came out.
I think we saw it at the same time because
No, actually, we saw it first, and then we told
Oh,
Peter.
you saw it first. Okay.
no,
I get
because
it.
then there was like one episode. No, I think Peter said that he was watching it, and we were like stoked because we were just very excited for him to see it because we really liked it.
Mhm.
We saw it, I want to say in 2 days, maybe less, like a day and a half.
You watch it like it's 1 8-hour movie. That's the way it's meant to be seen.
No, we kind of did, but
Cinema.
then David had to go to work, so then we had to stop it because he wouldn't let me watch it, and plus I wouldn't watch it by myself because at that time my parents had left the house, and he works at nights, so I was like, hell no. Fuck no, I'm gonna watch this at night. Like, no. I literally slept with all the lights on in the house. But yeah, it was, I mean, I feel like I've gotten more into like horror films like recently. But this is different from anything else that we had seen that was at least horror based. And I love the story that it tells, even though it's kind of fucked up, but I think it's so good. And like, I don't know, just everything about it I thought was so good. How I said earlier, like, it literally gives me chills to think about some of the scenes, but not like chills as in because it was scary. And like, it wasn't even about that. It was just the storytelling was so good that I was just like, what the hell? Like, and then recently for this, what we're doing today, I wanted to rewatch it because I hadn't seen it since we watched it the first time. And, I don't know why, but I like felt compelled to tell my mom, like, hey, do you want to watch the show? It's scary, but it's really good and I think you would really like it. And my mom, she thinks The Walking Dead is scary. Like, she just does not like anything like that.
Horror.
And so it took a little bit of convincing, but she did it. And it was funny because I feel like a lot of the show kind of relates to kind of like the trendy thing now, which is like witches and all that stuff, like things like that. And my mom, like, I mean, I know we'll talk about it later, but how like each kid has like kind of like a sixth sense type of thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's more supernatural type stuff.
Well, because, I mean...
Well, when you
I don't think the
about
distinction matters.
Yeah.
Well, no, because, like, me and my mom have been talking a lot about that. Like, she, ever since I was little, she's always been into, like, you know, people who can, like, read your future and all that stuff. And, like, things like that. And so we've been talking a lot about that. And so that's why I kind of told her to, because I thought she would like that aspect of it. And as we were watching it, like in the middle of it, she was like, this is a nice story.
I don't know if I would describe it that way.
Like, there was moments where she was just like, oh, that was nice. But she ended up really, really enjoying it, which was really cool to see. Like, she even asked us, like, who made this, which is super weird because I don't know, she's old. She's, like, not into that at all. And so when we told her, she was just like, dude, like, this guy's really good. I don't know who the fuck he is, but, like, wow. So, yeah. I don't know you.
No, you said everything. Nah. Yeah. Alexis?
This may be the best horror-themed anything I've ever witnessed. And look, I think Alexys Moreno and I, aside from sharing the same name, it seems we do have a lot more in common than that.
Kindred spirits.
We kind of approach horror from a very similar, I think, place, because our background with this genre of film has been more or less the same, in which we would avoid it at all costs for a large majority of our lives. But because it just, what I think, at least for me anyway, what I would always think horror was just a reason to scare yourself, and that never really appealed to me. I didn't think that was fun. It was hard to fathom how others could consider that to be fun.
Why would I give myself a heart attack? Why would I really give myself a heart attack?
Do you guys like roller coasters?
Yes, but that doesn't scare
So we're
me.
moving past the point. That's not a legitimate thing that has now been debunked. We're moving on.
Okay.
We're moving on from that.
The
what
fact
is the matter
checker.
with, like, roller coasters?
Yeah, because it's scary.
They're
People
not
intentionally.
scary, though.
They're fun.
It's a thrill.
They're okay.
But I'm just chilling.
Anyway, that has been, in my case, my history with horror. It has not been until in recent years, I would even say up until we started doing this podcast, in more cases, up until we started doing To the Table, that I have been really delving myself into more horror genre, whether it be television or films. I have been more interested in trying into looking back at the history of horror. Alexys Moreno and Peter Martinez, along with myself, we did a review earlier this year of Horror Noir, which you can stream on Shudder, which goes over a specific variety of horror films, which I find very fascinating. And it also, I think, opens your mind into realizing just the different kinds of horrors. I think for me, in most cases, what I would consider all horror to be.
I'm a good person, so I didn't make fun of you for that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What I would consider most horror to be are of the slasher variety in that sense. And I know that there were films, a certain variety of horror that is supernatural, that is deep-rooted with ghosts, which, by the way, we're doing a month on To the Table with that kind of horror variety, thanks to Peter Martinez. We're beginning with Poltergeist.
Ghost-tober.
So, that's exactly what it's called. So
all month long here at Red Spotlight Entertainment.
So yeah. That has basically been my background, and so it has not been until recently where I have been much more inclined, if not so excited, into watching the. In fact, I think we're talking about it. Peter, I think, told me about this show in 2018, and one of the primary reasons for not watching the show was because, well, it's not something I needed in my life at that point. I also at that point wasn't interested. No, seriously, it wasn't. And I'll tell you why it was the right decision. But when it comes to this being, it was. All right. So I already have that answer ready for you, Alexis. I knew you were coming at me for that.
These preemptive defenses.
No, I mean, because I know you're going to come after me on that.
He came
and
to
I'm
the
not
debate prepared. He did debate prep. I'm proud of him.
Which is a lot more than some others on the national scene. I'll tell you that. The thing is this. It hasn't been, I think, really until when I watched The Shining for the first time, which was last year, and then, of course, Dr. Sleep, was when I was like, all right, you know what? I'm a fan of, like, this variety of horror, and I am much, much more interested in going into this genre, as it were. But it should not be, I feel, understated. What Peter said earlier, and that is that, in particular with Mike Flanagan, the things that he does is more than just horror. It may be one of those situations in which this creative force is a fan of this genre and loves it and immerses you in it so much. But at the end of the day, this isn't what we're here for, really. There is a emotional, powerful, devastating narrative with fully fleshed out characters. And at the end of the day, and this is what I talked about this with Alexis, is that's, I feel, the kind of stories, no matter what the genre, that are the most powerful, that you can connect with the best. And there's not a bad thing I can even think of saying about this. This was impeccable. And I am so very happy that I watched this in 2020 when everything else is literally going to shit. So when we look at it from that perspective, I had the best experience because I needed this right now. So in that situation, if this was a competition, I feel like I've won. So end of story. That's where it is.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Your fake news.
Shut this clown up. The only thing I would disagree with you in is I do have one issue with the series, and it's the same issue that everyone has. For the first time, I'm on the same page with everyone, which is the ending.
I'm very fascinated to hear that, because I did hear that people said that. Yeah. I did not feel disappointed at all. But if any, and I'm surprised that you would have that issue, because to me, and we're not going to get into the details right now of this ending, but I will just say, I found people's complaints about the ending to be the kind of typical responses for other properties and other genres, and the complaints of it being positive. And
well, that's not my issue, obviously. Okay, I like the positive nature of it. It's just we'll get into it when we get into it.
Yeah. Execution, perhaps.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
So. How do you guys want to do this? Well, actually, you know what? Let's start, because this will come up eventually. And it's, I remember when the show came out, it was the number one thing the whole internet loved about the show. The secret ghosts.
Oh, hell no.
I couldn't find them the second time watching it.
Did you notice that the first time, Alexis?
No. I tried so hard to look for them this time, but I mean, I only saw like the obvious ones. Are those the ones that they were talking about?
No, there's
literally the only other thing that I saw were just the statues in the background.
The first time I watched it, it was so subtle, you know. It was like, was there a person behind that? And then it would cut, and then it'd cut back, and no one was there. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, maybe I'm seeing things. But then you get to the more obvious ones, and you're like, oh no. And then you just start to notice them more and more throughout the rest of the show. I
literally tried so hard. Like, I honestly, I think I looked at the background more than I did the characters this time, because I tried so hard.
Yeah.
And all I saw were the statues, and just like the obvious ones. So I was like, I wasn't sure if that's what they were talking about, or like if it was more.
No, I think there was more for sure. I've seen pictures of them and all that, but apparently there are like faces everywhere, not just like actual ghosts, but like in the furniture and some paintings or in the walls.
I saw that too, but I was like, but that's not a.
It's not a ghost.
It's a thing. Like
but it's supposed to be furniture. like there's faces
symbolic.
everywhere.
The house is constantly watching them.
Exactly.
I like that.
Did you notice that, Alexis?
No, that went over my head.
Oh, you never noticed it?
No.
You had to have noticed the statues, though.
I noticed the statues,
Okay.
and at some point I expected there to be a situation where there would be something in plain sight that would later be revealed to be a ghost. And I had a feeling that there was stuff being hidden that I wasn't catching because it became, I feel, apparent that was happening in some case, but I wasn't looking for them. And I think in most of these cases, I'm not even sure what it is you're referring to, because the ones that I think the ones that were made clear to me were the ones that were literally spelled out in the show. So that's where I'm at with like what secret ghosts there were.
I would go and just see a video on YouTube. I think there's like 100 of them by now that go throughout the show and pick out every single hidden ghost. And what's cool is there are some ghosts that only appear in certain rooms. Like they implied that this ghost has a history with this specific room. And they only appear at certain time, and like there's just implied history throughout the house and the home. But what's creepy is every single time they're staring at the characters, like just always watching,
and in turn
waiting.
They're staring through our souls.
Yeah, and in turn they're staring at us, which is not the greatest.
Yeah.
So
See,
yeah,
I would go watch those videos, but no.
Do I need that? Do I really need that?
One thing I heard
at this hour.
One thing I heard about the show though is that Mike Flanagan, he did really want to go into the history of the house. He wanted to start off every episode by seeing a piece of like history of the house, so like how it was built, the first people that moved in it, and all that. But he had to like cut that all out.
He had too much character stuff, I think. That would have been like way too much. I'm glad that he didn't, though, because like I just again, the mystery is what keeps it so creepy. Like you see certain ghosts in certain rooms from different time periods, and there's this just implied long history of this house. That
has to be one of the biggest things that we should commend about the series, that you're talking about that right now, and that is the mystery aspect. There is, I think in most cases, and even cases in which can be considered good, if not great, many of the so-called mystery, no matter the genre, but particularly with horror, the mystery may not be so mysterious in that it can be very easily guessed, if not predicted. I think this was kind of perfect in terms of like not only the structure with the 10 episodes, but in spreading out and keeping that mystery going, and you're still wondering up until the very end how things exactly went. By that point, you have an idea of what happened, but you're not really certain how things panned up. And there are, and I'm just talking broadly here, stuff that I think helps this, that I feel that I was a big fan of. There are, as we progress into the latter half of the season, we literally are pulled back to previous scenes from earlier episodes in the past, because we should mention, of course, that half of the show takes place in the present and half of it's in flashback form. When some flashbacks come back and they're being utilized to reveal the big thing, I feel it always works to great effect when you're like, oh my God, it was like staring me right in the face. Like all of the answers are right there. And this is why this was happening, or this is what this means in that situation, you know? And not just with that, and I think I discussed this with Alexis as well, Flanagan is such, I think, a great executioner of suspense. Because even when nothing necessarily happens,
you're just like, fuck, something's going to happen.
You're waiting for something to happen. And even if it doesn't happen, you're not necessarily disappointed.
Yeah.
But you're still in a very anxious state watching this. And I'll just say for me, and we'll get into talking about like how we viewed it, I practically binged this thing. And I would have finished it, so I started watching this on Friday afternoon. I got all the way into the beginning of episode 9, which is at 3:30 in the morning. And I stopped because I felt, okay, this is the point of no return. I think we should call it a night and continue this on.
Like, I'm in the hour that shit
You went to bed
at
3:30? Why so early? He's writing it down.
No, but
Anyway,
I was telling
Go
Alexis that I hated when he would do like the close-up shots of the faces of the characters, because you're just like, fuck, like they're right there. What's gonna happen?
I always just want to pull the camera back so I can see behind him,
Yes!
because it's like, bitch, he's too close.
You just kind of like want to like look behind him, like, is there something
Not
there?
just those establishing shots, but we also discuss this as well. The way that he moves that camera just immerses you. It puts you right there, and you're spooked.
I will say, I felt somewhat different because you talk about suspense in the show.
Right.
I almost felt the opposite in that I'm like really engrossed in the story and the characters, and then a fucking ghost pops up. I'm like, oh fuck, there's ghosts in this. That's right. Holy shit. You know?
Right.
And it throws me off.
Right. When you put it from that perspective, you're right. But I guess I didn't mean to insinuate that we're literally like spending every moment of every episode waiting for like a ghost to pop up. I think that's some of my least favorite stuff. Like the jump scares are nice and they work. Let's be real. But that's not, again, what I'm here for.
Yeah.
But I guess there's just this overall sense of dread.
Oh, yeah.
When there should be. And that's what,
this almost sense of inevitability.
Yes.
Because, and I guess this is somewhat of a spoiler, but it happens the first episode. The youngest of the Crane?
Yes, the Crane family.
The youngest of the Crane children dies. Nell goes back to Hill House, hangs herself, and that's basically what kicks off the show, bringing this family back together. And it starts there, but then it goes back and forth, basically leading up to her funeral about halfway through the season. And so you know that it ultimately ends up with Nell's death and tragedy. So there is this inevitability as you start to learn and really fall in love with these. It's not like these people are so amazing and so lovable, but they're so human, and you grow to care about these characters.
Yes.
And then you're hit like a ton of bricks halfway through the season as that inevitability comes true, where what happens, Nell dies, what you already knew was going to happen. But the ghost that basically haunts her is basically inevitability incarnate. So yeah, there is that overwhelming sense of dread that just sort of lingers throughout everything.
And that stuff makes
happens.
me anxious. So then that's kind of the set that I get in.
Yeah, it gets to the point where it's like, stop dealing with real world shit. Like, this is fucking scaring me. Throw a ghost at me. Where's that long boy with the hat? Let me see him. Like,
oh my God.
yeah.
No, but yeah. I mean, I guess since you mentioned the first episode, or now should we talk? Well, I don't know. Who's like the first one? Is it Steven?
No, it's the first episode of the older kid.
The oldest son. Is he the oldest in the family?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steve.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's kind of the like, I'm not dealing with this ghost nonsense bullshit.
Well, he really
type thing.
He really didn't deal much. Like, like in the end, you find out like, no, you dealt with a lot of ghost shit, but like he had absolutely no idea what the heck was going on in the house.
Yeah,
well,
that's what me and David. I mean, he kind of did. Kind of. That's what me and David were. We talked about before watching the show the second time. Like, it's very interesting to see how each kid dealt with the things that happened afterwards. Like,
trauma.
not like that. Like, well, yeah, I guess the trauma. Like, he completely just shut it out, and so did
he repressed it.
Yeah, and so did the second one. But I mean, she kind of got a little bit more affected by it.
Technically, it's been not revealed, but people have kind of deciphered that the 5 children sort of encompass the 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And he encompasses the first stage, which is denial. Which is what he does, despite the fact that at the end of the first episode, he literally sees the ghost of Nell.
Yeah, he's still like, no.
Yeah.
He's still like, no, like, this isn't actually happening. Despite
everything that happened, he's the one that has to put his foot in the ground and be like, no, we were mentally ill. We were this, we were that. This, like, this isn't real. And I will, this is something I wanted to throw out. I think the reason why Mike Flanagan is so good at adapting Stephen King novels into films and other works is because his storytelling is so Stephen King like this whole show feels like it was a Stephen King novel brought to life.
Well, I would imagine Mr. King himself was very pleased with Hill House.
Oh, he loved it. He tweeted out like it was amazing.
No, yeah. Actually, like, Flanagan, he just knows characters, and that's actually something I heard from some, what was his name? Mark Bernardin.
J.J. Abrams.
No, Mark Bernardin. He sort of did like a Hulu show that was about combining a bunch of Stephen King novels into one story. And someone asked him, like, oh, what's an advice you can give to someone who, like, wants to kind of adapt one of Stephen King's stories? And he's like, look at some of the best works. And he pointed out, what was it, Shawshank Redemption,
Green Mile,
and all that. It's like all of those deal with characters. It's like not really much about the story, and that's something that. Did
they bring up Shining?
The Shining, I don't remember, but again though he focuses a lot on character. You focus a lot on character with Stephen King novels, and that's actually like a really big thing with him. You know, it's always dealing with those, like, whatever trauma the character's going through or something. So that's something Mike Flanagan, he's great at.
This is also something I forgot to. There was a bunch of things I wanted to say, but I completely forgot to say.
There's a lot. There's a lot, really.
Because you brought up The Shining, the original story of The Haunting of Hill House, and the original story written by Stephen King of The Shining, take a lot from each other. Well, not from each other. Stephen King actually took a lot from the original story of Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House,
which did come before, right?
Yeah, way before.
Novel, right? Yeah.
Well, the Haunting of Hill House is about a house that's supposedly haunted.
Well, yeah,
and a woman. I think it's like a professor and a group of people, including this woman, go to the house that night to stay the night to, investigate or whatever. And throughout the night, she kind of starts to lose her mind. She starts to, like the house is taking her and da-da-da-da-da. And by the end, she ends up trying to drive away and crashes into a tree and dies. And you're never left knowing whether she just went crazy or it was the house. But it's sort of this whole thing of like she was the haunting within Hill House. And like her and the house were sort of intrinsically always connected. And it's basically the story of Jack and The Shining and the Overlook Hotel. Like it's almost like a retelling kind of The Shining. And that's really interesting to me. So I throw that out there.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool thing.
So back with Steve then?
Yeah.
So as far as, you're right, he is denial, and we're almost informed of that immediately. By the way, the actors.
Oh my goodness.
Great. From everyone from the main cast to the supporting players are so good. And especially because in one of those opening scenes, the woman that Steve is with does an amazing job of getting you so fucking scared, and how she describes the ghost that she saw in her bedroom. At that point, I was like, "Wow, this is going to be good." You know what? Like I agree. The cast when they're children and when they're adults is really, really good, but they also did like a really good job of matching them physically. Just looking at like the older actors, I immediately knew like, okay,
who was who,
because they look so much similar to their younger part. Like, I don't, the only other better job I've seen do this is like It Chapter 2, where you could have swore they were the adult versions of the actors from the first ones. So no, they did a really good job, not only of getting talented people, but of like physically matching them up so well.
Yeah.
Oh, and the younger dad is played by, what's his
Henry
name?
Thomas.
Henry Thomas.
Who is incredible in this. It's so interesting how, at least up until recently, we haven't seen much of him, at least in as many things. But I think thanks to Mike Flanagan, he has a career again. And he is really giving it his all, especially here. I'm so happy for him. If you're not aware that he played Elliot in E.T. So,
interesting.
We're there.
And he was Jack in
Dr. Sleep.
In Dr. Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I thought that was really cool. Again, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that film when we do the audio commentary.
But yeah, no, I honestly think his story is my least. I mean, they're all great, and then yeah, but his I think was the least interesting one out of the bunch to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when it gets to the end of his story, and you kind of figure out who he is as a person, and the things that he's done, you're just kind of like, oh, you're
well, a lot of him is by
huh?
design shrouded in mystery. What you do know is that the children, as adults, kind of hate him. Don't want him. Don't really care that he's alive. At least for the most part, most of the times, if not all the times that you see him on screen, whether it be the younger version or the older version of him, he appears as well-intentioned and a good person. But there always remains this just level of, you're questioning yourself. What really did happen? Because it was established from the very beginning that he was not forthcoming with what happened. And at least I suspected it was because of some supernatural elements that they wouldn't believe anyway and stuff, blah, blah. And so to me, I kind of felt in which direction it was going and did feel for him. Basically, that whole situation cost him his life, at least in terms of
talking about the father, right?
Yeah, the relationship or lack thereof that he would have with his children. So I knew that there was something that they were, I think, saving until the very, very end to reveal what happened there. But no, I think in many cases, I think he served perhaps one of the more overt consequences of what happened emotionally and as a person.
Well, I think a great way that they demonstrate that with the father is the way that he is talking to his dead wife. Mm-hmm. And because this is a ghost show, you go is this the ghost talk? And then you realize quickly, oh no, he's just crazy. This is kind of a coping mechanism for him.
Yeah, and he
with all the shit he's dealing. Yeah. Which I don't know if that makes it worse or better, but yeah.
Because he actively knows no, she isn't real, but this is how I want to deal with things. Mm-hmm. So let me be.
Basically.
Yeah, which is interesting, but it also it's kind of weird because he'll turn to the side and start talking to himself, and everybody's just like, what are you doing? What was that?
But it also doesn't help for the children to believe anything that he says.
Yeah.
Because he'll try to convince them hey, the house is evil. Hey, shut up, I'm talking. And it's okay, well you're a crazy person then. So it's how do I take you seriously?
Yeah.
But you also do get the sense that he knew
more that was letting
from
on.
The very beginning, and also knew that things were happening again. And I feel like he was one of the first to realize Bentnick Lady's identity, and just was not surprised when he saw her in the funeral episode. I feel when the lights went out, he immediately called Bentnick Lady the ghost by Nellie's name.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
I thought he just knew that it was the house that was getting her, and he was just kind of like, okay, stay away from her, obviously.
Well, specifically that ghost. I mean, because Bent Neck Lady was the ghost that was haunting Nellie all her life. And if we may, at this point, go ahead and can we drop the spoiler of what that is at this moment? This is actually one of the weird supernatural and fun twists of the show. I hesitate saying this. Well, from a viewer standpoint, not from their standpoint. I mean, they're here for our amusement, right? So fuck them, right? But I mean, look, this added component of, and I hesitate to use the phrase time travel because it's not in how people think it is, but how these ghosts are basically, and again, you can also say that this was symbolically done, but it was just one of the creepiest things to see, and tragic that Nellie's entire life was her haunting herself.
Mm-hmm. And
she was the Bent Neck Lady.
Her death, her own death haunting her.
Yes.
Like, that's terrifying.
That's a new level of fucked up, I'll tell you that.
But again, you can almost, because a lot of these ghosts are just sort of a portal to discuss real world fears and trauma and pain. And one way I think you can view that is sort of the ways in which we all fear about death and you know, that inevitability and it always coming for you, and that fear that she had, you know, realizing like that's what it always was. But just to see it visually was frightening and genuinely surprising. Like that was something that threw me for a loop, and I was like, oh
shit.
Oh geez, Rick.
Yeah, and you, I feel like that because she was the one haunting herself. I feel like that makes you feel so much for her. I mean, you already feel for her because she's, you know, she's what started the show. Like, her death was the whole premise of the show and stuff. And but then you like look at her story and you go through her life, and like this thing never stopped. Like, it was always there, and it like not only like obviously mentally it like triggered her, but also physically started triggering her to the point, you know, like with sleep paralysis and all that stuff. That's fucking scary, man. And
I suffer from
like,
that shit. It's not fun.
Oh no. And so it's like, and with her, like, it got to the point where she thought every single bad thing that happened to her was because of that. And it's like, no, like, life just happens and shit's fucked up, man. But like,
I thought it was interesting though that like they say that she stopped seeing it when she got together with her husband. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it's you could call it depression that often leads to suicide or the fear of death or whatever. But when she was with her husband, I think it's meant to represent along the lines of when she was with him, she saw a future and she was happy. Mm-hmm. So those sort of thoughts were sort of out of her mind. Her trauma from the house was out of her mind. Mm-hmm. But once she lost him,
everything came crashing down.
You know, that came crashing down, and that came back to consume her, quite literally. Yeah. So, yeah. It's great writing, I think. No, it's really weird. And
you
like,
know, Go ahead, Peter.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say real quick, look, there are many reasons to gush about this and many reasons to compliment it, but I feel like what can't be left unsaid is to compliment the structure of how this was executed. I love the format, the 10 episodes, the 10-hour-long episodes. It was long. This was very much meant to be binged, and binged it, I think most of us did in a very short amount of time, to the point where it kind of did like what we all complimented Stranger Things season 3 did, which where it felt less like a television season, but it felt more like a movie. And in that sense, it's true, but in the other sense, it isn't, because you definitely use the advantage that you have with television to develop these characters and flesh them out and giving them their own individual episodes. So I think from that standpoint, it was just so masterfully, I feel, planned, as well as all of the pieces that came together, all of the clues, whether it be your hidden secret ghosts or whether it be the hidden rooms that are, revealed toward the end, or all the things that are hinting at. It is, I would assume, daunting to really think of these two separate timelines. And if you're going to have a linear way of following all of the events that happen, keeping that all in your head, and then executing it as well as you do in these 10 episodes. Again, mind you, Mike Flanagan wrote all of these episodes and directed them. So I just think that's fucking impressive. And it should be, I think, lauded when you see examples like this that I think nail it so well, but also just appreciating the fact that there's so much going on that it very easily could have gone wrong and have been a disaster.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you bring up the structure, because the structure is a huge part of what makes this work, I feel. That sort of back and forth, and as you slowly... The first episode really sets the tone and lays down the groundwork for the story, where it's like there's this family, there's this house, there's this death that's going to bring them together, and it's like you're really intrigued, like, oh fuck, what's going on? What's going to happen? And you see glimpses of these other characters, but you don't get the full story. That's what's so cool, is when basically the first 5 episodes are from the point of view of each sibling. And when you see one episode, you see the way that sibling views the rest of the family, and you understand why it is they view them in that way. But then when you get to that next siblings episode, you understand, okay, this is why this sibling is acting this way. This is what they're feeling. This is why they're doing this or doing that.
My favorite thing, we don't have to go into it with her yet, but because I feel like we should kind of maybe leave her to the end. But my favorite thing is the evolution of the mom throughout each family member, not the
Olivia.
kids.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah. She's this perfect, angel goddess person who's, beautiful in the first one. And then towards the end, she just looks like a crazy lady. And, her hair's all fucked up. And she looks like she's,
falling
her
apart.
Face. Yeah, everything is just, not right. I love... I noticed it the second time. The first time I kind of didn't pay attention to that. But the second time that I saw it, the first episode, she's, beautiful. And then in the last episode, she looks like she's dying.
Oh, real quick. Well, cinematography. Beautiful.
Oh,
beautifully. Yeah. The production design, all of the locations, the house itself, even the funeral home, very, very well done. It is the craft work is amazing. Just a quick mention to that.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. And they... we haven't gotten to it yet, but specific, I think it's episode 5 or 6. They do some interesting stuff, moving between the home and the funeral home. And they specifically built the sets with that episode in mind. So the sets were literally built to have the house sets connected to the set of the funeral home, and the entire set for the whole show was built with that.
That's massive.
Yeah.
That's a massive set. And I don't know if anyone's even done this, but when we get to Dr. Sleep, the set for recreating the Overlook was massive, just from glimpses that I saw. So he's a fan of big sets, and I think I can appreciate that, considering how extinct they've become in,
especially
anything.
For horror films.
Yeah.
Usually horror films nowadays, it's go run around in the woods with a camcorder. You gotta move.
It can work. It can work in a lot of, like,
can work.
Invisible Man earlier this year.
Oh yeah, but I think most people are like view horror films as like this cheap thing, similar to comedies, where it's like you're not supposed to actually put money into it. Like you make it on the cheap and then you throw it out there. But no, I like his movies feel big, even when they're not actually big in the scope, so to speak. But we were talking about like Nell and the way the ghosts represent different characters. Talk about Nell's twin. What was his name? Luke.
Oof, which
he kind of dealt with his trauma through.
We just mentioned Invisible Man. He was in Invisible Man.
Yeah, he was the Invisible Man.
Right.
Wasn't he? Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. We still haven't seen the movie. Oh my god, we still need to.
Ooh, that one's really good. It's really good.
It's really good.
Like him and Nellie, you feel for them because I feel like yes, all the other siblings like they did see stuff, but because they repressed it so much, it kind of didn't faze them. But him and Nellie, they know that they're there. And
they got the brunt of it. They were the ones that really got fucked by it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That asshole hat ghost just couldn't leave the poor kid alone.
Yeah. Wait, did
That
Cheryl
bitch.
actually see a ghost? I don't think she actually saw a ghost.
Who?
Did she? Shirley.
Shirley.
Yeah.
Surely. They all saw something.
Yeah.
The second child, the one that owns the funeral home.
Yeah.
She owns a funeral home. Like,
I can't remember exactly.
No, I don't think she actually did see a ghost. She just dealt with the cat thing.
Well, she said that she saw. I don't know. I don't know.
She's still fucked up. I'm sorry, but
No, yeah, for sure. But like hers though is like,
I think they're all pretty fucked up in a weird way. Yeah.
Well, let's just go back to what were you saying, Peter?
Oh, with
Nellie and Luke.
Yeah, with Luke, he obviously dealt with his trauma through a crippling drug addiction, and he has this thing where like he is a good person and he's trying to be a good person, and his addiction and his trauma just keep almost preventing him from moving forward. Yeah. And in the first episode, you don't know Luke. In the first episode, he breaks into Steve's house and he steals shit. And you know, because you're seeing it from Steve's point of view, and it's the first episode, you're like, oh, he's a drug addict piece of shit breaking into his
it wasn't just Steve, though. They were all pretty much like crapping on him. So you already have a very negative impression of him.
Not a negative impression of Steve, but you have a negative impression of Luke. Yeah, because you're like, oh, drug addict piece of shit, whatever. You find out in his episode, it's him still fucking up, but fucking up in trying to do the right thing. He's trying to save his friend.
It wasn't selfish. It wasn't a selfish move at all. It was him like trying to help out his friend.
And and you feel like it's this thing of like, if he can help her, he can help himself.
Yes.
And as he continues to fail throughout, that whole endeavor, you have the ghost that haunted him as a child, in the background, slowly creeping up on him closer and closer, almost like calling on him to just do one more hit,
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a lot of the other kids, this one literally followed him wherever he went. He'd go.
It's literally drug addiction, right? Like that's what it represented, where, he'd have good days. Maybe drug addiction doesn't follow you, but on bad days, which he was having a very bad day, it follows you like a ghost, and it calls to you, and it demands that you submit. The way that was portrayed, I thought it was really good and really scary. And again, it's not just a scary ghost, but it's a deeper meaning behind it. Mm-hmm. And then also, I don't know if you guys picked up on it. I think it's pretty easy to pick up on, but some people don't. Which is, again, it's really interesting thing they do. They establish earlier, since Luke and Nell are twins, they have this sort of connection
he's like,
between
I feel
each other.
Stiff, like my feet are cold.
He's like
cold.
his neck hurts, you know. And what's cool is you think like maybe he's having withdrawal or something like that, or maybe he's dying or what's going on. And then at the end of the episode, yeah, no, he's literally experiencing death. Like because he is feeling what Nell is feeling. And at the end of the episode, when they're like, Nell's dead, it finally like, clicks. Like that's what it was. No,
no, I actually didn't. I don't think I caught that the first time, but the second time watching it, like as soon as he touches his neck, in the beginning of the episode, I'm like, oh shoot, he feels what Nels is feeling, and everything. And
that's right. I mean, I did catch that. He was feeling the fact that Nels died at that point, but the fact that he touched his neck, that's right. But didn't they all do that when they woke up?
Well, no, not when he woke up. It was he was like in the park. I think he just found his friend or something, and like he's like grabbing
when he woke up.
Yeah, no, I know that part.
Well, because it kind of goes into like what I was saying earlier about each of them having like a fifth sense. That was his and Nellie's. Like, well, how you said it. David was saying that Nellie is the one with the fifth sense, and because they're twins, because it's all the girls that have it, since he's Nellie's twin, he kind of like has that connection also because he's connected to her.
Yeah, and that's his, their like, thing is their connection to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then actually, I love that scene though in the end of his episode where he's like describing like what he's feeling fully, and he's just like,
and it's starting to click. Like that's literally rigor mortis.
And
when
the
body goes cold, and
and I love the change in his look too because he's freaking out at first, but then he's like, oh shit, and it's great. He's really good. They're all good.
Dude, I think the guy who plays older Luke, I think he's even like the little kid. Like I think they're both
the
really,
kids
really
were great. We should not like forget them. They were really good.
Yeah, that little Luke was so cute. Oh my god, I can't. But yeah, no, it's and like and then like you feel bad for all of them because you know they all lost a sibling, but like he lost, you know, and it's revealed later on like he was 9 months sober, like that day I think, or the day before, and it was because of Nellie. She took him, and she was like, "You need to get better," and like all this stuff, and like it was all because of her, and you know, and he lost that like his person, you know, and
what adds to like the sadness of all that is like when he's dealing with basically almost falling back and relapsing, you see him like going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you find out like
what it means.
That was his coping mechanism as a child whenever he was really afraid, because he was sort of the like scaredy cat of the children, which probably influenced him falling into drugs to deal with it.
He says it.
Yeah.
And it's like on his speech thing at the end. He's like, I was always scared when I was a little kid. And I wish I could remember.
Reason.
Yeah.
And of course, the significance of the count, and that is every member of the family.
Yeah, and that's what makes it kind of more heartbreaking.
Yeah, because you're just like, he relies on them for like literally everything. They're the reason why he's living, and they're just like, they just ignore him.
They constantly trash him, if not set him to the side. There are so many, in fact, most of this season, even up until the end, toward I think the last 4 or 3 episodes, there's an instance where he steals the car and the credit card and then goes off to Hill House. There's still questions of, you know, not from our part, but from their part.
Yeah. And you're just like, no, stop it. But yeah, no, his story is very sad.
That scene you mentioned, David, of the speech that Luke gave, it's a lot of that and other similarities with Dr. Sleep that felt from a similar place anyway. The addiction thing, because you'd have Well, when we get the doctor's sleep, we'll get the doctor's sleep. But yeah.
And then, I mean, I feel like Shirley's story is interesting only because she kind of turns to a really creepy way of doing it.
Wait, which one's Shirley? The one that went to the funeral home, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Her.
She annoys me. Oh my god. But,
it may just be her face. She has one of those faces that, you know.
No, her character annoys me. She comes out in Twilight. She's cool.
She comes out in Twilight.
But no, I feel like what happened to her in the house was very creepy only because it was real. Like, it was an actual physical thing that happened to her and, like, that she saw instead of having it be like, did I really see that? Or, like, is that really there? So, I don't know. She's kind of like, I connected with her in a way because, seeing her, like, the dead kittens and all that stuff and, like, just dead bodies, like, I don't know, it kind of made, like, a thing in her head turn and just, like, you know, she made a career out of it.
Well,
and with me, the first, like, funeral that I went to was with my grandma, and they had her body, like, they had the open casket and stuff, and ever since then, we were, like, in 6th grade, I think, 5th or 6th grade, and ever since then, I, like, whenever I go to one, or, like, anything, even, like, a dead dog or something, like, I can't see that. I can't see, like, dead things.
How old were you?
They freak me out. Well, 5th,
12?
6th grade, so, yeah,
11?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but, like, my first real funeral wasn't until last year.
What the heck?
Like, the real funeral in the sense that you go up to the casket and you see the person there, and because
those are rookie numbers.
What the fuck?
Oh my god!
Wow. So it's like, I don't know, my family always there was one funeral for a great grandparent, I think in 2004 when that happened, but I was like in the back row and was not allowed to go anywhere near it, so it's not something that profoundly impacted me or like traumatized me. At that point I would have been like a second grader.
My parents made us go to the front. Even till this day, like, they get mad at me if, like, we go to, like, a funeral or something, and I'm just like, no. Like, when my other grandmother passed away, she passed away at her house, and so we went to the house. I walked in, like, because they put a bed downstairs, because it was a 2-story house, and they put her bed downstairs because she couldn't go up the stairs anymore. And, so I knew walking in, like, her bed was, like, right by the door. And so I walked in, and, like, I just kept my head down the whole time, and I went and sat on the couch, and she was behind me.
Oh,
and I was
shit.
like, no. Yeah, I can't do it. Like, I physically, like, can't do it. And my parents, they get mad at me because I won't see them. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to see a dead body. I know it's my grandma, but it's like, I don't want to see them like that. Like, it's weird. I don't know. I find it really strange.
It's different. I mean, I've seen people die. I don't know. It's weird.
What?
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's weird. But like when you talk about like not wanting to see them in that state versus them alive, I think that's kind of when you connect it to the character of Shirley, that's kind of her whole thing where she kind of has trouble with the idea of dying, you know, from the bunnies from the house to her mother. And then when she goes to the funeral and she sees her and she's like, oh, she still looks pretty. Like it's almost this feeling of like she's still there even though she isn't. And I think her whole career choice was sort of like that kind of need to not almost prevent death in a way or like make it okay. Because when you make them pretty and you make them look alive, then they feel like
she's
they're
really
still alive.
Passionate about it. There's so many discussions where you understand at least where she comes from is that she feels responsible in many ways to take care of these bodies and to make them look as, and for the families, how, it was for her. There is a bigger, I feel, commentary on the whole thing of death and going on. And again, another one of those similarities of these ideas that you can share with Dr. Sleep. And this may be something that is on Mike Flanagan's part, but this notion that there is an existence of some sort after you die seems to be very much on his mind, at least from the recent works that we've seen from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think good directors, the movies they make are kind of arguments with themselves, or just themselves trying to work out their own issues through film. Because art is...
Isn't that every artist?
Yeah, because art is a reflection of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But especially with horror is about what makes us scared, right? So if and I don't know, Final Destination, right? Why is that scary? It's more of this idea that accidents could happen in any moment and it could end up being our doom, right? Like when we go on a Ferris wheel and you're just like, how safe is it? Will it completely collapse and I'm gonna fall 100 feet and die or whatever? So you get movies like Final Destination and stuff like that. With Mike Flanagan, I think you can see his fears very much within his film, and maybe some of the issues that he himself or people he knows, people he's close to, issues that he has seen, maybe not directly dealt with, but have been a part of his life. I think you can tell, which again I think makes it more interesting and better piece of art when artists fully give themselves to their work like that, which I think he does do.
Mm-hmm.
And while there are many examples and instances throughout Hill House that are horrific, especially when it comes to people passing on and dying, at least what I interpret in subtle ways to what Flanagan seems to be suggesting throughout this show is that while that was tragic, at least for those that remain alive on the planet, it's not the end of the story. There is a continuing going on after to kind of, and you're right, almost in the way with how Shirley rationalizes her role as to how she can kind of help with the whole blow of death. Maybe Flanagan is saying something larger than what we can say right now about his decision to, because there are characters that we mentioned with Nellie and then ultimately with the father Hugh that pass on, but in terms of how it's framed, as far as with Hugh moving on, it didn't feel tragic. It felt triumphant in a way for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely interesting, right? Like I find that very interesting about his work. And it kind of gets into sort of I don't know if we want to go there yet, but sort of issues.
We still have one more sibling.
Yeah, we had some other stuff to discuss, definitely. But that definitely kind of goes into my issues with the final episode and the way everything wraps up. But it is interesting that I've seen 4 of his sort of horror works. I don't want to say films because this technically isn't a film. But, 4 of the things he's kind of worked on. I've seen this. I've seen
Dr. Sleep. Have you seen Oculus?
Oculus. And then there was another thing he worked on that I know I saw. Oh, Gerald's Game. I'm pretty sure he did Gerald's Game, which was another Netflix film. Stephen King adaptation.
That's right. You said that before.
Yeah, and I told you guys about it. Yeah, Mike Flanagan. Yeah, he wrote and directed that one as well. And only Oculus had sort of a negative ending. Everything else
in tone, you mean?
In tone, yes.
Gotcha.
Everything else had a more positive ending, and again, that's pretty rare for horror.
Rare for anything these days, I feel.
Yeah. So you definitely can tell he doesn't want to. I don't know. He doesn't want to. What he's trying to say isn't something in which he's nihilistic, I would say. Like, I don't feel like he's a nihilistic individual.
Not at all. And I find that refreshing because I think we have more than enough of those voices, don't you? At least that's why I think Alexis can agree with this as well. Part of what I feel makes us so appreciative of Mike Flanagan and drawn to his work is that he does bring that perspective. It's not just doom and gloom. It's not just nihilism for the sake of that. He does bring forward, I think, a message that is inspirational in a series in which people are mutilated and hang themselves.
I don't want to get into the ending yet, but originally the ending was written to be much more negative in tone.
Gotcha.
And I was seeing an interview with him, and he was saying like he wrestled all night before filming with the decision of that ending, and then he ultimately came to feel like he couldn't do that to the characters, that it would be too cruel. He said it would feel cruel to do that to these characters that have been through so much, and they ended up changing the ending. And again, when we talk about the ending, I'll be happy to say.
So we have one more to go before we get to the big fifth and sixth episodes. I feel we have yet to talk about Theodora.
Yes.
Is that the gloves girl?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that has the shine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, this can cross over to the Shining universe.
Do it.
I freaking love her. I think she's great. I love that she. Okay, so there's this big fight throughout the whole series, because Steven, the oldest kid, wrote a book based on their experiences at the house, which all of them kind of felt uncomfortable about it. Shirley, the second kid, made the biggest deal because she felt like he didn't do the story correct, that he just kind of took bits and pieces.
She was ultimately uncomfortable with the whole idea of this being used to make profit of this is something that she and they all have a shared traumatized experience. She was just disgusted by the notion of him doing that for the sake of, making money. I felt she wasn't the most, I think, understanding of Steve's position, but she was very hardlined. And ultimately, she was the one that made it a personal feud, whereas the others had varying degrees of issues.
Yes. And, I mean, I feel like her main thing also was just this ended up with our mom's death. Why are you doing this? And also, the story of, what happened at the house became big, media news. And so they were, followed by people growing up, asking them questions about the house, what happened at the house, because nobody was saying anything. It was just, the mom committed suicide, and that's it. And so a lot of, speculation around the house came about, and so it was like also
a real life
them throughout the house, throughout their lives.
It was like a real life Amityville.
Yes. And so, I love that Theo was like, no, don't do it. It's weird. And then she actually ended up taking the money, and she's like, I'm getting my PhD.
Oh, yeah. Each of them kind of end up taking the money or not. That was interesting. I have actually seen a fifth film of his called Hush, which is also pretty good. Okay, go ahead.
Hush.
Mike Flanagan.
Is that the one?
The deaf lady.
With the deaf lady.
I didn't know that was him.
Who is...
That's so good.
The deaf lady is the character you're talking about right now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's the same actress.
I haven't seen it in years, but cool.
Who's actually his wife in real life.
I love her. She has a great scene at one point in one of the episodes, which we can talk about later because it's in the later episodes. Mm-hmm. That happens right after the really scary scene.
Oh, I hated that. Oh my god. Fuck that. Oh,
but
no.
yeah, I think, she tries to make it seem like, she was the least affected by everything, but ultimately she just holds everything inside. And when you see her episode and when you dive deeper into her character and who she is, it completely took over her life, and she is the person that she is because of it. Even though, like, when they do show her when she's younger, she was always, cold and, like, kept to herself, but this drove her to be more that way.
Conceal, don't feel.
Exactly.
Don't let it show.
Yeah. That was a scene where my mom, so she has this thing where, like, whenever she touches something, she, like, senses, like,
she's got the shine.
What happened. Oh my God. And, like, she can feel, like, the vibes from it. I don't know. And, the reason why I say, like, witchy stuff is because, as an adult, she wears gloves to kind of not have that thing. She's like Rogue, where like she like sucks the life out of it.
Oh yeah, I was leaning more Elsa, but Rogue works too.
And so when she was younger, her mom noticed it, and the mom tells her a story of like her grandmother and her mother having kind of something like that, like they have like a thing. To where they sense things, and she kind of wondered if it was going to be passed on to her kids, which it kind of was, all in different ways. But with her, I feel it's like the most like
powerful.
It's the most powerful one, and it affects her a lot. And so the mom gave her the gloves to kind of not have that happen to her. And my mom, when she saw that, she was like, "Oh, that's nice."
That's nice.
She's like, "That was really nice of her." But those are like the types of stories that my mom and I have been talking about. Like, we've not that like my family is like that, but there has been some family members who like can sense things.
You're in a Mexican family, okay?
No, a lot of people have told my mom that, like, she like, can not see stuff, but, like, something happens with her, which, like, freaks me out, because I'm like, Steven, I'm like, nope.
You didn't see shit, shut your mouth.
Yes. And so, yeah, that's kind of, like, I don't know, and that's also kind of why I really like Theo, I don't know, but also just because she, like, detaches from everything. I feel like I'm like that sometimes.
Real quick, Alexis, I think Peter just laid out something pretty interesting that we don't really talk about all that much, as to why perhaps we find the more interesting and perhaps more frightening aspects of horror to be the supernatural, to be ghosts. And Peter kind of threw it out there. We're all of Mexican descent, and that's not necessarily a stereotype. I think it's true. You're kind of brought up to be very much fearful of that kind of stuff. It is.
But my mom, like, she doesn't see it that way, though. So it's weird, because mom, like, she's very much those people that are like, no, like, it means something. It has to mean something else.
It's a sign.
Yes.
Like,
and she never put that fear on me with these types of things. It was all me.
You're the one that was like, shut up, mom.
Yeah.
No, but like, I have family members where it's like, oh, like, when this family member passed, I felt something, or there was a rush of energy towards me, and I felt, and I knew it was, such and such passing, or it was this, or it was that. Like, I don't know. I know so many people who are
you hear so many stories that are just like, they can't be explained. I know there's one instance that I couldn't help. I was just mesmerized in the way that they were telling the story of a mother of an aunt, that they were with her in her final moments and she was passing on, and that as she was leaving, she was basically holding her arms up as if she was being pulled up by some entity, and her body turned white or something. And oh, am I scared? And
well, let me tell you guys, there's been actual exorcisms in my family. So yeah, like, shit's gone down in my family.
I knew you were evil.
You know what was the weirdest thing? Weirdest thing, I know Olivia in this series has an affliction that she suffers from, which is these chronic headaches. I kid you not, the day after I watched most of this series, I had like this headache that lasts. Are you serious?
Yesterday, I had a big ass headache that I woke up with also, and I took like 4 pills because it was bad. But like, I also do get migraines like regularly, so
it was. But it came out.
Probably had nothing to do with it.
It was weird. It came out of nowhere. I think it was some kind of sinus pressure because I took some allergy. I have bad allergies this year. I don't know about if it's just me, but that helped a lot. But it was the timing of it was weird. Okay, it was just like
it might have been watching 7 hours of television in a row as well.
That's nothing for me on a good day.
Oh, that's true. That's a Friday night for you.
What else do people have right now in the age of the pandemic, which is still happening, right? You got TV. That's that friend that's always there for you, even when things are crashing down around you.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. Talking about Shirley, though. You're talking about how her affliction...
Theodora.
Theodora? Is that her name?
Theo.
Yeah.
Theo. That's right, Theo. I... Like, when you first meet her, she's kind of, like, tough, standoffish, puts up walls. But when you learn more about her, you learn her about affliction, you understand that it's not that she doesn't feel a lot, it's that she feels too much.
Too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that wall is kind of built up to help prevent from feeling too much. Like, at the end of her episode, when she has her booty call, and the girl's like, hey, like, can we buy me dinner first or something, like, fuck, and can we talk about your day? And then she just kind of like breaks down talking about her day, like,
and the girl's like, all right.
she's like, yeah, let's just
how
do this.
you I think what I found most impressive is that she literally just broke down about the horrifying day, and then she was like, all right, let's hook up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But okay, we should like talk about that a little bit, because I love
God, that was
that. No, yeah, it's horrible. It's horrifying.
Well,
but I love that she took this thing that, she has been trying to hide, and like, because it affects her so much and so deeply, but she ended up learning how to use it to do good and to help others.
She's Danny Torrance.
You were saying, David, you wanted to say?
No, I was gonna mention that too. Like,
You almost hit
sorry.
me.
No, I was gonna say that too. What she said, like how she used it in a good way, but also like it's still pretty much affects her. And so you get this one kid. She's like being a therapist with a patient. That's it. And she's like trying to figure out like, okay, what's up with this kid? Like, I can't get anything off of her. There's something clearly going on with her that she's like literally losing herself, the kid. And then later on you find out that her foster dad
was abusing her.
Yeah. And I like this detail though, when like she's outside the house and she's calling
child services
or the cops or something, but like she she's talking to them in a way like she's done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, this isn't the first time she's dealt with something like this. And I just like that detail.
You can tell she's had to... Because in order to find out what happened, she basically has to experience what those kids have gone through. Like, and, like, the kid was being molested or raped. And again, I think this episode more than anything really breaks down the type of horror that this show is going for, because at the beginning it starts off like a typical scary, spooky, you have a creepy girl and she's kind of standoffish and she's talking about like Mr. Smiley's haunting her, and you're like, oh fuck, like what is this ghost or whatever. And you even have that point where it's like a jump scare when she's asleep, where she sees Mr. Smiley.
My mom, she's like, I'm gonna go into your room and do that to you.
Just on the side of the bed right there. But you're like, oh fuck, what is this ghost? And then by the end, you realize Mr. Smiley was her literally looking up at the ceiling while she was being violated. And this poor child could only sort of deal with that abuse through creating this entity that she associated with the abuse called Mr.
And in many
Smiley.
ways, Peter, that may have been the more horrifying and frightening aspect of the entire series, from the perspective that that's real life. And as you always say, real life is much more terrifying than what you would see in a horror aspect. And it just reminds you, that's right, these things happen every day. And it made you feel so incredibly disgusted, like you wanted to throw up.
Yeah.
And the way that she explains it, like when she's breaking down, how she's like, this kid, like all she wanted was somebody to listen to her story, and I didn't until that happened. And she's like, I should have known, I should have seen the signs, I should have done something sooner.
And earlier on, when she's feeling the couch and everything, and she's feeling and experiencing basically what the kid was, we can commend the acting on that. It was all in the face, and it was harrowing just watching that. And her, having to hold back from screaming at the top of her lungs and crying. Beautiful moment from an acting standpoint. It made you just feel awful in every way. Scary.
Yep.
Yeah, but I like her though. I think she's one of the ones I like the best. Like she's like straight up no bullshit, no nonsense. She's straight to it.
That scene, that too. Like we don't talk about when they're little a lot. But they have, so in the Hill House at Hill House, they have like this family that goes in, and they're kind of like the help.
The Dudleys?
I don't know. The Dudleys. And they have, like, it's a husband and a wife and stuff, and then the wife starts talking to Luke because he's playing with the service elevator, and she's like, no, like, what are you doing, blah, blah, and then Theo comes in, and she's like, the fuck are you doing? Like, leave him alone. But she's like 10 or like 9, and she's just like, bitch, leave him alone. But that scene also, like, that's how she just, like, felt so bad about what happened because they end up messing with the service elevator, and she sends Luke down there, and, like, Luke basically gets attacked. And that was kind of, like, the first time you see her, at least as a kid, feel so bad that she did this thing. So that was, I don't know, I feel like that was, like, the first time you see her, like, actually feeling all the feels.
Yeah.
Should we get to the episode?
Should. Let's do it.
Episode 6. Yeah. It's my favorite episode. Oh my god. So the whole family's finally back together at the funeral home, and I guess they're just like trying to like process the whole thing together.
Was it the wait
and
or
It was a whole thing.
I'm not sure.
Are you referring to the episode where we finally see them back together as adults in the same location and they're having it's a lot of monologuing, a lot of like dialogue where they're kind of exploding at each other. Is that the one you're talking about? That one.
The whole episode is in one shot. Basically that.
It's yeah.
Yeah, and so right, how long did it take us to like figure it out that it was in one shot?
It didn't take you that long. You're just like, you turned to me and you're like, it hasn't stopped. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, it's one shot. And then I started noticing and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I think it's a good job like in the dialogue because like, you know, you're really, really engaged in their conversations and just kind of like, and you can tell that like it's going to explode at one point, like their whole dynamic and everything.
Are you okay?
No, something fell across the house. I don't know what that means.
No, but like even like I don't know, this episode, there's so many reasons why this episode is one of the best ones. Yes, the camera work in this episode is so good. The dialogue, but the overall story in this episode, like from beginning to end, is so good. You know, yes, you start off, it's the night before the wake and they all kind of come together and they're seeing her for the first time. Also, can we talk about Shirley working on her sister? Like, what
that was crazy. I was like, I could never do that. I could never do that.
When she was on the phone and she's like, I'm like 2 inches in, you're my sister's blah blah blah, like what the fuck? No.
I was
no
like
way.
But I think her way with dealing with it was like
I need to make her pretty.
Work mode. Like just like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. Like again, just like throwing herself into a work as if it were any other job. Like that was sort of her method of dealing with it. And then just
no way. My mom, she was just like, fuck no. Like, what the fuck is wrong with her? But no. But yeah, like everybody's kind of like all like razzled up, you know. Luke gets there and he's just like, I can't do this. Steven gets there and he's just like, okay, like, let's go. Like, I don't know, he feels like he's like in a rush or something. And so they go up together and he's just like, and it like finally hits him and he's just like, fuck, like that's my sister and she's there, like, and then you see the dad and he's more calm, but he's like also like, fuck.
Well, before him though, like I like their entire conversation basically just kind of like, okay, you're dealing with this obviously and all that, but then you get like this little moment together with them where they're actually just having a normal conversation. but it's about their dad. Like how he got to the funeral home with Coach.
what makes this episode so great and so interesting is we're like 6 episodes in deep at this point, and we finally understand the point of view of everyone here. And like, you know who these characters are and their issues between each other have been built up, but you've never had this sort of cathartic instance where they could just talk to each other.
You mean yell at the top of their lungs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're just being forced to address any of it, right?
Right.
Because throughout their entire lives, they've basically been running away from each other when it comes to these issues. So to finally just have it laid out all on the line right then and there, like I was on the edge of my seat watching this episode.
And then on top of all of that, you have this looming thing in the background where you have Nellie's ghost everywhere, and you're just kind of like, fuck, like physically and, you know, like spiritually, I guess. It's nuts.
Yeah, that's where like it kind of is the best of both worlds. You're so immersed in this character stuff going on, you're on the edge of your seat. But then, if you forgot for an instance, this was also horror. If like when Shirley goes, "What the fuck?" and she notices that somebody put these things on Nellie's eyelids, and I was like, Well, okay, I'm out of here.
No, when they're just like talking, and then you see Bent Lady in the background.
I don't know if you guys have seen, but I've seen some behind the scenes vids for this episode specifically, and like it was the logistics to get it done seemed like insane. Like
I'm sure it is.
when they have the Betneck lady in the background, that is actually the actress. But she had contacts in her eyes that made it impossible for her to like see. So someone, like, the camera would move out of frame. Someone had to like run her over there to stand for 2 seconds as the camera
so
moved
funny.
back, and then she would run. They would like drag her away, and like they would have. There's this really cool shot where the dad's talking, and as the camera like slowly turns around him, he sees them as the children they were.
Yeah,
and then it goes
so
back around,
good.
and then they're adults, and it's like they talked about how they had to like throw the kids at the couches real quick, and then like go and drag them back, and then the other actors would have to run in, and apparently they had like a dolly. They needed like this special like dolly for the camera to do all of this. And what they noticed is at first it worked really well in rehearsal, but it started to slowly get worse and worse, like the dolly, as they pushed and pulled it. And apparently the I don't know if it is a dolly, but whatever the fuck they had, whatever it was called, to roll around the camera was not built for carpet. So they're talking about how the thing could have fallen apart at any point when they were filming, and they chose not to tell anyone, to not give them to not have added pressure. And they say like right as they finished filming, the thing just like kaput. Broke apart.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have the other storyline where they go into the past, and it's at the house, and it's basically the story of the mom being taken over, like. But that story was kind of nuts too. Like, when they're at the house and the lights go out and there's like this big storm, and Nellie somehow goes missing, which then, you know, leads on to like present day and what's going on with them. And so they're searching for Nellie, but at the same time, the mom is kind of like all over the place, like mentally. And the mom and the dad go searching for her, and the dad like sees stuff with the mom, like he sees her walking around, but she's like not paying attention, and then the mom sees things like
The other ghosts.
Yeah, the other ghosts, and
there's like this. And some of those are creepy. There was this one where she opens the door and this like ghost kid in a wheelchair.
It just wheels out. Yeah.
What the fuck was that about?
Well, he gets mentioned later on. I don't know if you caught that, but what's it called? There's also like that scene, which I mean by her like getting taken over. The dad sees the mom by this giant ass window by the staircase, and she's just like there, like staring out the window, and the window's like breaking down. And he's like freaking out, and then he looks up, and the mom's like fine in the hallway sitting down.
Yeah.
And like the thing that like frustrates me is that like they see these things happening, and they're like, "Are you okay?" Like, what
no, I'm not okay, bitch. There's a ghost everywhere.
Like I would be just like, the fuck, I'm getting out of here, and
there wouldn't
like,
be a discussion. You just run away.
Yes, exactly. It's nuts, but no, this is a really good episode.
And then
really quick, I was wrong. I've seen 6 Mike Flanagan films.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Ouija, Origin of Evil. Okay, go ahead.
No.
You said that one's the good one, right?
Yeah, it's the good one.
Cool.
The good Ouija, not the bad Ouija.
Yes.
No, but then the ending of that episode, it gets to me, honestly. I don't know why.
Yes.
But like somehow they, in the past scenes, they find Nellie. She was like in the same room she was the whole time, and she's just like, I was screaming at you guys. You didn't see me at all. And then Oh wait, no. Then in the present time, it's finally like getting like intense with the whole family, and Steve yells at the dad. And it's like, tell us the truth, tell us what happened, blah blah blah. And he's just like, no, you don't get to know shit. And then he finally yells at him, going like, the wrong parent died. And then fucking Nell's coffin just drops and shit.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That was an amazing moment. I mean, that
Yes.
we're at a level 11 in terms of just like, the screaming, the yelling, and all of the confrontation that is going on. You have the thunder going on outside, and then on top of that, you kind of break all of that with the fucking casket being pushed down, which again reminds you, shit.
Yeah, and it was, it was creepy, but it was like a sweet moment, I guess, with the whole family, or like that part of the family just kind of being like, okay, like, let's stop. This is about Nell, basically, and they try to like fix her up a bit and all that, and then Luke, he's like looking at her body and everything, and they're just kind of like, they just decide to leave. But you go back to the past, and like he's talking to her. Luke is talking to Nell, younger self, and he's like, don't scare me like that. It was just like, oh my god!
I thought like, they took over you.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want anything to happen to you. It's like, I won't let anything happen to you. And then the episode ends with her saying like, I was screaming at you guys, but you didn't see me. I was here the whole time. And it's just like, oh god. It gets to me, that scene right there, because that is what Nell was doing, like in the present moment. That is what she was doing the whole time, basically, just trying to like
get their attention somehow.
Not only in that moment when they're all yelling at each other in the funeral home, but throughout her whole life, right? Like, she was breaking down, and her family, she was basically screaming at them, and they just didn't listen. You can say there's reasons for why they didn't. They had their own crazy shit to deal with, but that's kind of what happened. So yeah, I think it fits multiple perspectives or multiple reasons for her saying, I was screaming and you didn't hear me. And then that's also like, that's how it is sometimes with people in your life that may suffer from depression.
Yeah.
Or, be moved to take their life. It's like they are screaming for help in their own way, and you don't even realize it. So yeah, I don't know. That episode was just incredible.
Yeah, it was top notch.
And then everything just starts going crazy after that.
Yeah. Oh, and then it ends by, Theo doing stuff with Cheryl's husband.
Oh,
that cheater had it coming.
Yeah, she kind of did, huh?
How dare she be judgmental?
No, so then I think the next episode after that, it's the
funeral.
It's the funeral, but you mostly just get the dad trying to communicate finally with all of his kids.
And failing every time. I felt bad for him.
Failing. Oh my god, I know. And
then his like saying, I can fix it. I can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. You're just like, no, you can't. I mean, I guess he kind of did at the end.
I mean,
kind of.
He did at the end, but
I don't know.
But I like those moments though where he's talking to his wife, and like he knows like what to do, like what to say in those moments, but he completely ignores it because he just feels like he just wants to be so much part of their lives that it just keeps screwing himself over. It's always sad with him.
That scene where the aunt walks in during the wake, and he's just like, he hates her with like everything he has. He just hates her because she's the one that took care of them in the end, and he couldn't.
Yeah. He was complaining to his dead wife about it.
Yeah. But yeah, the episode after this, I can't remember what happens. It's I know that scene with Luke, when they're burying her happens, and the mom basically comes out, the dead scary mom, and
I know
tells him to go home.
After this, it ultimately ends up with Luke going like, "Fuck this house." Like, we need to put a cap in this house's ass, and like goes to try and burn it all down, and the house is like, psych. Like
that moment was like, oh
shot,
shit! Like he poured kerosene on that, and he lit the flame, and the house is like, you thought,
bitch, you thought.
No, I was gonna say, I love that shot though when he was outside the house and the lights in the house turned red and everything. It's like,
yeah, they're like, come at me,
also,
bitch.
we forgot to say, oh my god, no, that scene where Nellie goes into the house.
Yeah,
and the light,
that.
the two flickers. Oh jeez.
But like just when she's like dancing, and it goes from what's in her head to real life. And I'm just like,
Imagine like walking into that.
What are you doing? Why are you dancing?
But what's it called? Oh, we didn't even talk about that either. Like during Nellie's episode, when she goes into the house and like what she sees.
I mean, it is a 10-hour show.
Yeah, that she like goes in and the mom she sees her mom, and it's basically like her.
It is her
telling her to kill herself.
Well, we didn't touch on the mom much, but like the mom. I don't know. Fuck. Did I say this already? I don't know. I'm losing it. But the mom is basically the first victim.
Yeah.
Of the house, and again,
in this family.
Yeah, within this family.
Right.
But
yes.
The house kind of preys on the fears of a mother, that you will never be able to protect your children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the horrors of life will be something that your children cannot be protected from, and you as a mother, you know, that as a parent, you know, that terrifies you. And the house sort of preys on her thoughts and sort of uses that as a mechanism for her to try to kill her kids. And I thought that was, again, really interesting. Very real world worries and fears, and the way this sort of supernatural entity attaches itself to that and manipulates itself through that. Yeah, I don't know.
It just makes you ask the question though, like, were all the ghosts in that house? And there's a lot of questions that will never be answered clearly, but were all the ghosts or most of the ghosts in that house, were all of them victims themselves and died there?
They're all
because
meals.
of what happened? Yeah, they're all Happy Meals.
Basically, for the house, yeah.
I think, I don't know, me and David also talked about this, that like, you know, the show really touches a lot on like, was it actually a ghost? Was it mental illness? But I do definitely think that it was a combination of both. I think that the mom...
I think the ghosts are meant to represent that, like mental illness, and that combined with the fear of not being able to protect her children, you know?
No, but I was saying, like, are some of the ghosts that they're seeing, like, outside of Hill House in their present time, like, was it actually the ghost, or was it just the trauma that they hallucinating, you know? I
think it's one and the same.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But in this episode, we get that really creepy scene of after everybody leaves the wake. And well, first of all, we get that speech, that Luke speech, where he's talking about Nelly and fuck. And everybody's just like, oh shit, that was really sad.
Which is why funerals suck.
Yeah.
Wait, what did he say?
He was basically just like, she was like my person, like.
Oh yeah, I remember now what she said when she left them at rehab. Yeah, okay.
But after everybody leaves, Theo and her dad notice like dirt on the floor, and they go into Shirley's office and they see the dead mom. And at that point they're both like, we saw this, like,
yeah,
it's there,
yeah,
like we both saw this, there's no way. And even Theo, like, the dad doesn't mention anything, and Theo's like, you're not gonna tell them what the fuck just happened. and even then, like, the episode after that, something happens with Shirley and Theo together, and
is that
she's
the
like,
door
tell them
one?
what happened.
Yeah,
I just remember
And
that
she's
scaring
like-
the fuck out of me, like
Yeah,
door
oh my god. But,
Which is a repeat of what happened earlier when there were kids at the house, of the knocking sound.
Yeah, I just want to point out that this entire show that we're doing right now, my heart has been beating so fast.
It's okay, mine too, because there's earthquakes going on, so that's another reason.
I keep looking at like all of our like screens, and I'm just like, fuck, like.
No, I keep looking off to the
behind
side
me.
too. I have
Yeah.
this instinct that I should look behind me real quick every few seconds or so in case there's something there. I was also looking at your window right behind you, and was convinced that I saw a shape or something.
No, me too.
To be fair, I have those heart palpitations may be from me secretly conducting an exorcism on Alexys Moreno this whole time.
Oh my god.
It might be me trying to shove the demon out of you.
Is that where the earthquakes are coming from?
What was I saying? No, yeah, like that scene with Shirley and Theo was like with the doors and stuff, and Shirley's on the phone with her dad and her brother, and Theo's like, tell them what happened to us, like, why aren't you saying anything? I would be the same way though, like, dude, this literally just happened, I need to say something.
I need to write a book.
I need to write a book. Yeah, and then so then finally they realize what Luke is up to. He's heading towards the house. He's gonna burn it all. And then that's when the dad's finally like, all right, here's what, like, well, not what happened, but like, here's like what's going on right now. And it's
and his whole explanation when we finally get what is actually going down, that's the scene that I get chills from.
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap.
And then he just basically tells them, like, right now, all of us are going to just head towards the most dangerous place in the world for us. And especially for you. And he's just like, why me? It's like, because you were next on his meal.
Yes! Oh my
and
god!
he tells him, like, it's like, okay, your book. There's a shit ton of wrong in it, by the way. And it's like, then the part that freaks me out was like when he goes, it's like, Luke's treehouse. I never built a treehouse. He was like, what are you talking about?
When
Like,
he
I've been
said
in it.
that, there was chills down my spine. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? There
And he's
wasn't
like,
a
we were there
treehouse.
for 2 weeks. We were only at that house for 2 weeks.
2 months.
2 months.
And he's like, and like the whole time I spent working on the house. When did I have time to build him a treehouse?
And then
And you could tell Steven's like his brain's breaking, and it's like, yeah, bitch.
Yeah.
but it's also
Who you
true.
gonna call?
It's also true because like that was a pretty nice treehouse. But then like
Yeah.
you realize that's right. We only ever see Luke there because there's so many things going on, right? Like there's the treehouse, there's the whole Abigail thing, which I didn't think was actually real up until later when you realize they're the Dudley's kid, and like, oh, okay, and that's later on down the line. But the whole thing about that is, you realize that there are things that have in these flashback sequences that looked ordinarily fine, but like being in a treehouse. But then when you actually think about it, no, that doesn't actually make all that sense. And the fact that there were a lot of rooms that we would only see one member of the family
One person, and we only saw it one time.
Mm-hmm.
And but I mean, he keeps going. He's like, all of these rooms that, you write about, none of these ever existed. And the reason why I know that you were next was because you actually saw them. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then he explains, we see during a flashback, he's going up the stairs and he sees this guy working on this like really old clock. And, he looks like he's dressed like from a different era. But there was so many people at the house because they were working on it that he was just kind of.
He blends in.
Yeah, mm-hmm. he kind of blends in, kind of not. Like it kind of like goes over your head until it's pointed out, and the dad's like, he explains to him like, I got that clock checked out before we moved into the house. Nobody could fix that clock because it's so old that nobody alive would know what to do.
Unless you shipped it out and did a whole bunch of stuff. Nobody would actually be at the house working on it.
Yes. And he's like, that man was never there. And he's just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What's so creepy about that is like, you remember from the earlier episode where there's a shot of like him as a kid just walking by and you see like, but he's just one of the workers. Like, oh, okay. Like you're not focused on him. You're just focused on him walking down the stairs. And then, oh, Alexis, someone's there is that your mom?
Yeah, that's her right behind me. Yeah. Yeah.
You're so dumb.
Okay, well.
What's that? Oh, yeah, she says hi.
Okay. Anyways, they all die. What were we talking about?
What the fuck? No, but yeah, like the dad just explaining, like laying everything out for him, and Steven just being like mind blown, and you're also mind blown, and you're just like, holy crap, like. Also, there's this scene that like really freaks me out. It's like, it's not even scary. Like other things are more creepy than this, but at one point, they're working on the basement because after that big storm, they get like
God.
Huge... No, it's not even what you think.
Okay.
It's not even what you think. Like that should freak me out, but it doesn't. I mean, it does, but like, anyways, so the dad, he realizes that like the plans for the house are not all like consistent, and so he gets the mom to make a master plan of the house. And she gives him the plans and is like, oh, chill, like, yeah, like, these are it, blah, blah, blah. He did them. And he opens them and he's just like, what the fuck is this? And they finally show the plans and it looks like a maze. Like, it looks like the outline of the house, but inside of the house, it just looks like a giant maze. And then he realizes that he has seen that shape before and it's their forever house. And, I don't know why that, like, freaks me out so much.
Well, that's part of the creep factor, like, you know? I thought you were talking about the scratching going on.
No, yeah, you would think that would be it.
I was going to mention, so, like, the rooms...
Which, by the way, real quick, when I was watching that episode, there's, like, a piece of paper right here. It had the fan on, and it kept making a scratching noise like that. And I had to remind myself every 5 minutes, that's the paper. Let's get back to the episode. So, you know.
I was gonna say, like, the individual rooms for the kids. I liked rewatching it, and those moments where the kids were talking to Mrs. Dudley, and so it was who was it? Oh, it's like Nellie. She finds like the tea set,
right?
And and Mrs. Dudley goes, "Oh, where'd you find this?" She's like, "In the toy room." She's like, "The what?" And like they just like and they go completely past
that. That
it.
should have been a clue.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but then there was other ones, like I think Steve, he's like, oh, I found this in the game room. She's like, the what? It's like the room upstairs. Yeah. So I just like those.
That happened?
These little details.
Yeah.
Like literally.
I think the most obvious one was when the mom was like, I'm going to go into my reading room, and everybody's like, the fuck is she talking about?
Yeah, they're like, where's the reading room at? I don't know.
And they're just like, mom's a little crazy right now, like.
So how many? Well, hold on a minute. How many rooms? So it was the reading room. It was the dancing studio for Theo. That also was just not completely unexplained. It was the game room. It was the tree house. It was the toy room. And then for Cheryl, it was
the family room.
Yeah.
I remember there's one episode where the two girls are trying to open the red door, and then like they're like knocking, and then they give up because they're not able to open it, and then who is it? Shirley? One of them. Theo. They're in the dancing room.
Theo.
And then there's like knocks and like people trying to break in, and you're like, oh my god, is it a ghost? And then like it stops, and it's like, oh, spooky, whatever, and you realize that was. That was them trying to get into the red room.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
But they had all assumed.
When my mom saw that, she was like, what the fuck? Because that's the beginning of the last episode. Oh, but let's talk about that scary ass scene.
Oh
god. Oh my god.
Okay.
So Shirley and Theo, they're driving to the house now, and this is like the only time where they can really hash it out now.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck happened?
Between Theo and the husband.
And, it's just like she's trying to explain, Theo, she's trying to explain like what happened, but it's just not coming out right. It's not coming out at all, really. And they're just getting more and more frustrated. And fucking Nelly just pops up from the back.
Like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. It's like, it's like, I think it's a cool way though to like.
It's basically how we all felt last night, like this whole country.
No, but like it did seem like Nelly was just trying to like scream at Theo to be like, just tell her everything for God's sakes, and like stop arguing for once.
Come together, you dumb fuckers.
Yeah, and it leads to this like awesome scene with Theo finally explaining like what happened. Is basically she touched Nelly when she died, and it just caused her to feel nothing,
which is horrible. Horrible. Going back though, that scared the shit out of me. That thing of like jumping in the middle of that and them like stopping the car, like no, like that for real. I screamed.
David is the witness. I screamed. I like fell down. It was a whole thing. I was not expecting it, and it scared the shit out of me.
No, I jumped like really high. Like, oh fuck.
And you were living at that house at that point?
Yes.
Are you sure? I'm kidding.
But yeah, no, but then it leads to that scene with Theo, and we kind of finally see, because the whole time, like during the funeral and stuff, she was acting stranger than usual. Like she was drinking the whole time, and I mean, you could say it was like, obviously her sister's funeral and stuff, but you kind of felt like there was something more, and it was never explained what she felt when she felt Nelly. You can only guess what it was. But it's very interesting that when she touched her, she felt nothing, because you could kind of say that, like, I don't know, her soul or whatever wasn't there.
Well, yeah, the house took her soul, so there's nothing in that body anymore.
Yeah, so that, I don't know, it's interesting, I think. But also kind of really sad. I mean, I don't know if it's, like, sad, because I feel like, yes, her sister now lives in, like, this really horrible house and stuff, but, like, at the same time, like, in the end, she's gonna be with other people that she knows. I don't know. But because we don't know that at that point, and Theo says that, this is what she is now. She's just nothing. And, like, is this what my mom is as well? Like, is this what she has been for all these years? Like, and that's, I don't know, interesting conversation, I feel.
So, should we talk about the ending?
Yeah. So yeah, no, they're all in the house now, and who's that one chick? That's basically like
The flapper.
The flapper.
Oh my god, I think she's so good. Her speeches, I think, are so good. Like, I have no idea what she's talking about, but the way that she delivers them, you're just like, oh shit.
Oh, I'm talking about that one shot though of it was in the episode with, like, you see the mom's perspective on everything now, and it was that scene where she sees her for the first time, like the flapper, but like she wakes up and like and she's looking at the door, and it's like that's right when she like turns away from it or something like that, or like walks away from the door. I love that shot because like when horror directors like capture those moments of like something that you've probably seen, so like in Hereditary, the Grandma in the Dark, or like and something like that, and so that's like one thing that creeps me the fuck out on that scene because we've all must have like, or people must have seen that all the time before, where they just like kind of like turn the corner and they think they see someone in there or something, and oof.
I have no idea what you're talking about, and I don't want to know.
Okay, that's fine.
Alexis.
Sorry, but anyway, basically that chick, she just captures them all and puts them all in the red room, and they're all having a version of their own red room again, but like trying to, I guess, consume them.
It's like their fears, basically.
Yeah.
And not even their fears, I think it's just their mistakes. And, you know, what they grew up to be, and all the things that they've done kind of crashing down on them.
Yeah, that's basically
and
it.
consuming them.
Especially for point. Shirley.
Oh, yeah.
Her biggest regret. But Nell saves them all from their nightmare, basically. And you get this, like...
Not all of them.
I really love this.
Oh my god. Okay, well, what is your issue, Peter? We can go into that.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about it. Hello. I feel like the whole series is sort of moving in one direction. And then you get to the end, and it's another. And it's weird I think it kind of messes with the messaging for me, right? So, like, talking about the end, you basically find out what's going on. Is there something behind it?
It was just weird because David just completely disappeared into thin air for that.
This is when my dog started barking, and I'm like, oh, don't leave me alone.
Mateo?
Yeah.
He's my favorite.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, continue.
The house is the monster. You find out it's kind of the supernatural devourer of souls. In a way, right?
And yet...
And it uses the red room to sort of draw in its victims and hold them still as it digests them, basically, and keeps them in the house. Because it's very much this thing of you die in the house, you remain in the house. And the house, I feel, throughout the whole show is sort of this negative entity, you know what I mean? It's sort of this catalyst for all their trauma and negative, basically everything within these people's lives. But then you have, like who were they? Who were the neighbors again?
The Dudleys.
The Dudleys. It is the Dudleys. Okay. You know, that is when you find out that the reason they never brought down the house was because the Dudleys' daughter had died in the house.
The night that the mother had.
And they could still see her through the house. And it's this weird thing where the house is almost viewed as a positive by the end of the show. Like you have the Dudley neighbor, the father, as the wife is dying, with his last breath, not his last breath, her last breath, but he struggles to get her to the house before she dies so she can remain alive forever within the house and they can view her. And there's this famous line within the book, The Haunting of Hill House, is those that walk there walk alone. That's one of the most famous lines from the books, talking about, or it's like, whatever walked there walked alone. And at the end of this, they do a complete reversal of that line at the end of the episode, where they're like, whoever walked there walked together, or something like that. Those that walked there walked together. And it's almost like this inspirational thing about their being in the house and like living on in the house. And it's weird. It's kind of like, I don't know. You're told how like this house is literally responsible for, the deaths and the destruction of this family, but it's also viewed as kind of a positive thing that the dead family continues on together within the house. That's not a positive. Like it's weird. In an attempt to have a more positive ending, it kind of fucked up the overall messaging and the symbolism of the show. And it made it not work at the end. I don't know how you guys feel, but that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, wait, what? Like, this is a weird direction to be taking this in, where them dying in the house is almost viewed as a positive. Like, what? Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know of any instance where Flanagan has talked about this ending on record or at length?
What happened? You guys are seeing this too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
he's gone.
What was I gonna say? I mean, I guess I can see it. I can see what you mean, but because, and I understand, by you mentioning that line from the book, it is kind of weird. But for me, I didn't know about that little detail. And so I just kind of viewed it as like, I think that the mom had a lot of mental problems. And then I think that Nell had a lot of mental problems. I think that her seeing Bentneck Lady from the time that she was little meant that she dealt with some type of depression, some type of negative feelings since she was little. And then her having that ending of like being with her family, I think that's good. And kind of being like getting those negative things taken away.
But it was taken away by them
being at peace.
Dying. Like the house won. And if the house is meant to represent these negative things, then why is the house winning and keeping their souls there forever a positive?
Because they're not hurt anymore. And they're at peace now. And like, yes, this
So then the house was right that they should all just die and remain in the house forever?
Well, no, because you have that conversation with the dad and the wife of him going, and she's like trying to convince him, like, no, let them stay. But he's like, No, they need to live their life.
Well, yeah, see, that's what I mean. So
go.
then why are they portraying staying in that house as a positive?
Because they're, like, it's not about, I think in the end, like, it's not about the house, it's about them.
It's about them moving on from the people that they lost.
But if the house symbolizes what caused that loss...
Also,
uh-huh.
I think that theory that you told me yesterday, if you kind of attach that into it, it kind of makes more sense.
Oh yeah, so I know I've seen on the internet some people like had the same complaints as you, and that they viewed the house as a positive. They didn't go into detail like you did, but I was kind of.
Well, they never do.
I don't think the house is. And
some ghost is wanting to prevent Alexis from getting his point in right now. I don't know what's going on. Alexis, every time you speak, you just cut out completely. It's crazy.
Like right now.
Like earlier when you went off, we heard none of it. And he's gone.
It is gone. But you know, what they were saying, like, oh, like, why is the house good now? And I was like, the house is not good. It literally destroyed these people's lives and like is now entrapping them in this house, you know. And then,
but at least they're together.
Well, no, that's not really what I thought was the positive, but it was just that, you know, they've accepted that what they've accepted the situation that they're at, and they can move on in their own. At least the ones that died. The other ones, though, you can't stay there. You have to move on, and it's like the house is kind of consuming them as if like they're some drug.
Why is he laughing? He sounds like a crazy person.
Are you okay, Mr. Soto?
It's just weird. We're talking about the haunting of Hill House, and then this call, there are three Alexises now on the call. If you look at the Hangouts chat, this empty void icon. Oh, and then it just mysteriously just disappeared.
It heard you talking shit and just decided to leave.
We were having some connection issues right there. What?
Isn't there?
Yeah, there is a movie called Skype Call, right? It was a Skype Call movie.
Oh my god, Jesus! What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
Mr. Soto, you seemed like you were poised to come in and say a lot, and then the ghost decided that you took away your freedom
Literally,
of speech. I shall grant it back to you.
3 times. 3 times, I think it happened. So we were having some connection issues where every time I spoke, for whatever reason, it just crashed. There was, like, I think 2 points. I forgot the second one, but the first one, what I was going to ask to you is, do you know of any instance in which Flanagan himself has addressed this? What his reasoning is? Because I would be very curious to know what was.
I can't remember his exact address, but I remember something of along the lines of where even he was like, yeah, the ending ain't great. I know he's admitted something along those lines, but the exact words, I don't know. Oh, do you want to know what the original ending was supposed to be?
Yes.
It was going to be...
Yes. Go ahead.
It was going to be them similarly all happy together, having moved on. But behind them was going to be the window. The window that was used to signify that they were still in the red room.
Well, someone made the actors, they made a theory that they're still in the red room.
Well, that's what the original ending was going to be.
Well, because like apparently when Luke is in the red room for like a brief moment, you see him wearing red, like he was wearing red shoes or something. And then at the end, where like they're giving him his, like, I guess 2-year anniversary of being sober, the icing on the cake is red also. See,
and I think that's kind of what it was supposed to be. And then it would have been more overt because behind them would have been the window.
I think that would have worked.
It would have been
better.
It would have just been
it would have been sad,
dark as fuck.
I feel like it would have worked better.
I actually like the positive ending. It's just the way in which the house is viewed.
Yeah, that's what I'm picking up on so far. Right. So from what I'm picking up on as far as what Peter is, the issue isn't the positive ending. I think at this point that's clear because that ending, well, I think your issue is there's a thematic inconsistency toward the very last act of this, which this, would be the ending. But that ending in and of itself, all right, so you're saying that basically it would have ended with them dying and they all would still be in the Red Room, but together. Would that have also been inconsistent, though? I mean, because if it's a happy ending in the house, doesn't the criticism still land? That the very thing that was trying to go after them is then for the vehicle for the supposed happy ending?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not implying that ending is better.
Oh,
I'm just letting you know that's what... I just thought it was interesting that was supposed to be. I like the ending better where they grow and they learn and they become better people, and I like that positive ending better. It's just the way it's handled, I think, is very sloppy because it kind of fucks up everything. And like the way that the house is portrayed, the way everything is portrayed is kind of flipped on its head, and it's weird. Like,
Let
again, like one of the last shots.
Continue.
No, go ahead.
It's a hard... I don't know. I feel like it's hard to know when to cut in here, because not that you go on forever, but it may some kind of a lag, but I get a sense that you're about to finish, and then you have another... you take a pause, and then this happens. Please can finish your thought, and then I'll jump in.
I was just going to say, like, one of the last shots is the surviving members of the family, like, walking through the house, and there's, like, bright sunlight, and it's beautiful, and it's like, like, everything's great, they're together, and it's like, wait, no, this is terrible. The house consumed them. Like, this is not good. Like, this is not a positive. It's weird. I think it's weird.
That's not something that occurred to me. My other question was this thing about in the house you walk alone. Is this something that the show said themselves, or was it the book, the source material?
In the book, that's one of the big lines, and then within the show, as the like at the very, very end, as Steven is doing like voiceover,
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the lines he drops.
In the house you walk alone.
Those that walk... No, he doesn't say they walk alone. He says those that walk there walk together. And in the book, it was those that walk there walk alone, implying like the fate there is terrible, which again would make sense because the house is, throughout the entire show, is portrayed as a bad thing and a catalyst for all of their pain and suffering. So to kind of flip it and say like, no, like those that walk there walk together, sort of they're together and it's awesome and it's great. It's like, that's so weird because that's not what you were telling me for the last 9 hours, 9.5 hours. Yeah.
This is interesting. This is not something that occurred to me, but I guess when you bring it up, yeah, I that makes for an inconsistency.
It's valid.
It's what?
What he's saying is valid.
Usually,
I guess.
No, it is a valid criticism. I guess I just don't care. Because I like the ending. I like the ending as is, to the point where I was like, I felt like, oh, this is great. I loved it. And I loved it because it was a happy ending. Now, the way that you're saying it could have been better executed, I'm sure there could have been many ways. Endings are hard to do, and almost even the best of circumstances. Not making excuses, but it's just a reality. What I found, what people... I mean, at least I was suspecting, perhaps David has seen this as well, and maybe you have as well, Peter, that people overall, the concerns with the ending is not so much the thematic inconsistency, but the fact that they went with a happy, inspirational ending, which I disagree with. Like, the fact that they went with the happy ending in and of itself is the reason for why it was brought down.
I'm not. Is that true?
I'm asking if that's the case.
I feel like for the first time, the issues I have are what most people have the issues with.
No, yeah. Some people didn't like it was a positive ending, but also some people, they did say what you were saying, and that they were expecting one ending but got something else. For me, though, I didn't know what to expect at the end of this show, honestly. So when I get to that positive ending, I was just kind of like, oh, this is great, this is cool, and all that. But again, I never really saw it as the house is a positive thing, is a good place and all that. It was just sort of like,
no, but when Peter does talk about it does make a lot of sense. And I think it is a very valid thing to throw out there. And in fact, I think I actually agree with Peter. I just don't care. If I'm being honest,
That's usually how it goes, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
But can we talk about something else that happens in this episode, which is the dialogue in this episode is, oh my god, Jesus! I was talking to my mom about this, because she doesn't speak a lot of English, and so we put it with Spanish subtitles. And so I was trying to like explain to her, like, I wasn't reading the subtitles, so I'm not sure if it translated the way that it does in English. But in English, especially that speech that Nellie does, while they're in the Red Room, I mean, come on. Like, it's so good. And like, everything that she says and what she's talking about, you know, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense as she keeps going. And that's kind of how the show is, and her life, and this family's life. And my mom, she's like, no, like, I understood it. I kind of, it did kind of translate that way in Spanish. But I don't know. It's so good.
No, it was a cool way to start it, because like she's just like saying words, but like has no meaning to it. It's all scrambled up, but then finally someone says the right thing, and it's just like it leads her right there to the right path. And yeah, it was a nice speech about time, basically. And then I liked the conversation between the dad and the mom, of him going, when he started off with like, what was it? It was like, there was a door that I was pushing away, and I was holding
it with both hands,
but I never had room for my kids.
Yeah, well, it's going into her fear. No, all of that shit's really good. Because when they're in the Red Room, that's kind of what happens, right? Like, they each get into... They kind of have to confront their bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
And it does provide for some pretty good scenes. And then also, you have, what's his name? Dean.
Luke.
Yeah.
Luke. And it's kind of like a repeat of what happened with Nell.
Which was a repeat of what happened with Olivia, their mom.
Yeah. But this time the family's together, right? And they're able to...
Save him.
Yes. There's a spider on me.
I wouldn't be so calm if that was me in that situation. And for those keeping score, David once again has disappeared off the screen, so...
Why are you so interested in David's personal life, okay?
Well, it's just the weird things that are happening. I mean, there have been at least, I think, 5 earthquakes in the duration of this recording.
Really?
Yeah, from my side, yeah. Have you not felt them, Peter?
Wait, David hasn't been on this recording this entire time.
And, okay, have you felt the earthquakes? Have there been any on your side?
Since we started, no.
Maybe I should move over to the east side. No, I've had 5 at least. They're smallish.
Mm-hmm. The largest was like a 4.4, I think.
In general, but not in the last hour that we were...
No, not in the last couple hours. David, you're alive? Where have you been? It's been hours.
Oh my god.
So anyway, the show sucked. I'm giving it 3 out of 12 stars. Do not watch.
And as usual, because I mean, this I feel is of the caliber and quality of some of the best material out there, film or television show. But as it is in every case, because it happens to be in the horror genre, it gets ignored entirely from the industry when it comes to recognizing.
Yeah, where is its Emmys?
What happened?
Where its Emmys?
Nowhere. I don't remember the last time a horror show or a horror movie were nominated. Get Out.
American Horror Story?
Not getting... Well...
Lady Gaga. This is like... this show is like if American Horror Story was good. Because it's kind of following... It's kind of following the same format. Because the second season's going to be an entirely new story.
It seems to me that the only reason that show is nominated is because of Ryan Murphy then. So if this had Ryan Murphy's name, then it would be nominated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God,
But it wouldn't be good.
But it wouldn't be good, so that's the trade-off.
No, anything,
the industry adores Ryan
anything
Murphy.
Murphy does wins a fucking Emmy. That Hollywood show that was on Netflix just won an Emmy. It was just on Netflix.
Was it good?
And I'm sorry, like, everything he makes is trash. I don't,
Was that one not good?
I don't know, but he made it, so I
I
assume. I'm not watching it.
I didn't see it, but apparently it was the same thing Ryan Murphy always makes and does.
Oh.
I've watched most of Glee. I've watched most of American Horror Story. I've watched a lot of his other shit. It's all the same. It's just, like, over-the-top trashiness where, like, characters will change on a dime.
I like the Versace one.
But was it not over-the-top trashiness where characters change on a dime? Don't get me wrong. American Horror Story is good trash. I enjoy it. It's fucking crazy.
There was American Crime Story, right?
I watched the shit
the
out of
OJ thing that he did?
Yeah, but I don't care about crime that much to deal with a shitty show. If it's shit I like, then I'll deal with it being shitty. But if it's not, like, I don't care about OJ. I'm sorry.
I thought that one was pretty good. I don't like American Horror Story. I tried. I really did.
The best thing about that show is the openings. The title card shit.
That's funny. I remember I got scared though because I was watching, I don't even remember what season it was. I think it was maybe Coven. It was just the first episode, but at that time I was starting school in LA, and so I had to stay a whole week in LA, and I was in a hotel room by myself that whole week. Oh no, it was scary. I was like, nope. Next, and then Glee was on.
I would not
and
do that.
No, but Glee was on in like the channel after that, and it was the episode with Finn where
when he died.
Yes, it was the premiere of that episode, and I was by myself crying my eyes out. But at least I wasn't scared.
I think I watched like the first few seconds of it because I was interested. I'm like, okay, how are they gonna address how he died? And then the first line is like, how did he die? What does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
What matters is how he lived. And I was like, okay. And then I changed.
Oh no, the thing that got to me was when they show them his mom on the show, and she's talking about it and stuff. Oh man, that woman did so good. And she's like crying, and she's just like, how do people do this? How can people breathe? How do I go on? Like, how? Like, I don't understand. It's so good. But, yeah. Anyways.
So that was a review of Glee. Anything else to say about
Alexis, were you a Gleek?
maybe. Anything else to say on the haunting of Did you say Glee? What did you say?
Gleek.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what a Gleek is?
Can we close the show? I'm done. Do we have anything else to say about the haunting of Hill House?
Go watch it.
It is very good.
How excited are we for Blind Manor?
I'm very.
I'm terrified.
I'm hearing things that are like,
so
this is
scared.
even scarier than the first one.
Oh no!
What date does it come out?
October 9th. Friday, October 9th.
When do the reviews drop? Because I really want to.
I would say soonish.
Yeah.
But you know how
I'm
Netflix
interested in
is
that.
sometimes. I mean, that's the other thing is that we should also be on pins and needles, hoping that this does well, because otherwise, you know, how Netflix works with their shows that don't necessarily bring in new subscribers, it could be like, well, this is over.
Yeah. So please watch the second season.
I know.
Like
I've been
we all
seeing
will.
a lot of people post. I've been seeing a lot of people post about Hill House. Like, it's so good. You guys need to watch it.
All right. Well, if that's where we're going to leave it, thank you all for listening. We're going to come back next time to review this season 2, which is The Haunting of Bly Manor. Alexis, David, and Peter will also be doing audio commentaries for The Shining and Dr. Sleep on our wonderful October, and for Ghosttober, as Peter coined it, onto the table. We'll be doing a lot of ghost-themed horror films, so if you like horror, we're here for you all month. And then the real horror begins on November 3rd. So be a nice little warm-up for that. So as always, our shows are on Sundays, every Sunday, and sometimes on Thursdays. Stay with us here under the spotlight. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.